Starting streaming! There's no warm-up for these ones. We just go into Terraria and we play Terraria and zombies come and I'm outside and I gotta go inside and I gotta actually get this stuff set up. I didn't even wait. I didn't even wait. Right, my wife. To play with me in the sky. Right, friend. She is more than friend. Get off wife's spawn point. She needs to come spawn. She needs to come spawn with. Oh, okay. Let's go into the stream manager. The stream. Hello, stream manager. Copy channel link. Let's go into gaming. Go on to Blue Sky. I'll tell people I'm gaming. This is called self-promotion. Get started and then do the thing. I think that's why most people have their stinking starting soon things. I mean, I have looked into it. I just gotta make it. I did kind of set one up with the Otter Cave. It's basic, but it's there. Have I done this recently? I posted this. There we go. Again. I want to go into the thing. I want to say I'm streaming. And usually paste. I will say hour and a half-ish is pretty safe. Usually we go longer than that, but if it's too short, I might get in trouble. Too long? I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works on this new Blue Sky thing. I don't know why I have to be like, yeah, I'm going live this amount of time. Like, I'm going live until it's done. I need to put Milo to bed. Put Milo to bed. And everyone's got musics. Got musics. What do you have to say? If you had a gun, I bet a dude would show up. Kind of the opposite of what happens when you just flail a gun around, but alright. Milo, do you need to go to bed? Bedtime, how long, place? Let's go. Go to bed. It's okay. Hi, baby. What you up to?
I was catching animals and making food.
Catching animals and making food. Well, sure is a thing to do. All right. Damn, that's very fast. Just off your food?
Stop that food.
Very cool. You like my pretty pond?
Actually, I was wondering why you chose to put all the ropes.
Because I thought it would blend in with the natural vines that are growing, and then I could have an easy way out of the pond because it's too tall to get out of.
Bunny stew.
I have some escargot at the moment, but bunny stew is quite good. Well, okay. That's a lot of bunny stew compared to my escargot, so I think that is a... Apparently escargot is a better improvement, but we can save that for a good time. I guess I'll put it in here, because I don't have a stack yet. Okay. Ah. Let's see if anyone shows up. I really don't know. It's a weird time. Wasn't entire. No, I'm good. I'm just here. Just forget I sound like a chicken.
I won't steal them.
That's rude. Kill it back.
did, but he was spawned on one of the little square torches on the way down.
Oh yeah, I've had a few of those. Just like, what are the odds? I guess if it's just looking for a spot, I'll find what it finds. Dang. You gotta see, because bats can show up when you're on the way down. I'm like, oh shit. Oh, let's go see how our jungle is coming along. Free eyeball ever. Oh, there's a jungle bat. I didn't bring any acorns. I would have made a mahogany. We officially have at least enough for a bat to have spawned. So, not getting the music or the background to change, but I got a jungle bat. It is spreading.
Got more marble.
Nice. I have a bunch on. Oh, I had a bunch on me. I must have put it away. I haven't seen any marble guys spawn yet, but they're also in kind of a weird spots. Man, that's pretty. Weird to see the sun rising in stars still, but yeah, alright. That's how it is some places. I don't know. Oh, it does show up on the trees. You're right. It's the first time I've actually seen that. I was looking at the background trees like, they ain't doing nothing with the foreground ones do it. I don't know if I like how it looks on the foreground ones, honestly. And I guess it does give the impression of the light going through the leaves sometimes.
Got potato chips.
Nice. Look at you with your delicious snacks. Rami? Nice, she's gonna show me her delicious snack. Right. So, I guess to start, look for it here.
Need a sun.
Yeah, that is kind of your go-to. They changed the slime staff to be a king slime drop. In case you're wondering why that's not happening at this point.
Find him.
Green mushroom. Queen. Don't touch my fire plug. Okay. Come on, get down with the swiftness. Get up, get down with the swiftness. Yes.
Can't put dirt in an extractinator. I tried doing that, and that didn't do anything. So,
Yeah.
thinking maybe in this seed it would do something different. I thought
You
maybe.
know, I appreciate the experimentative. Wow, that was an attempt at a language. I am attempting to communicate. Poorly.
Got a flare gun.
Okay. Well, that counts for an arms dealer showing up. Suppose. Sure, man. Yeah. Obviously, got a conveyor belt in them. I kind of like all the slimes taking on the properties, I think, though. I think that's neat. What an interesting thing for them to do. Fucking iron and copper pick reduces my range. I need to replace that stupid thing. Okay. I made a bunch of marble something, but so far I'm not seeing any, like, what you call them, the javelin dudes. Yeah. Oh, wow. I've never tried that before. When I'm holding down the weapon, and I can use my scroll wheel, there's a different icon on the hotbar. Like there's arrows around what you're going to switch to. But you can't actually switch until you let go of the mouse. It's pretty tricky to actually physically fucking do, but you can do it.
That was dangerous.
Let's get dangerous. I'm at the marble spot.
You're gonna want to come with me.
So I was busy getting stoned. I'm coming, I'm coming. Wasn't one. Hi, Solar. So funny, baby.
That
Nice.
37 melee damage.
That's quite a lot of melee damage. Enough to make you start giggling.
It's slow though.
Yeah, it really is. Solar asked how it is. It's alright. Parents came by for a bit. Made us dinner. Hermes boots for me. Ooh. You want these? Okay.
Gave you my potato chips on accident.
Here you go. Save you some. You don't know that.
You have a cloud in the bottle?
Yes, you gave me one. Thank you, by the way.
Want the bat?
Not really. It's good damage, but it's so slow it's impractical, and it doesn't have any range either, really, so it's kind of, I'm not a heavy melee person. I am a quick melee person. I can tell.
Did you get rid of the marble stuff over?
I used it.
Oh, well, I have 70 more.
Okay. Oh, Mom was saying thanks for letting us hang out.
I should be thinking about this.
Oh. Like, Dad's eyes were on me a lot. Let's just say not looking at my face. I think he had thoughts about the choice of skirt.
Well, if he didn't say anything, then he didn't say anything. If he's got a problem, he can... I don't know.
Open your mouth, old man.
Yeah, like he can open his mouth and say...
Yeah, parents came by. Mom made, like, baked chicken dinner, and I'm immediately so much faster. Fuck yes. Thank you. How fucked up it feels to be, like, full flaming mace running around, and I'm not running around. It's like, ah!
Another
Oh, yeah. Did he show up? Okay. Bye, slime. Give me your goop. Yes, yeah. So there we go. Bam. Okay. I guess the tile didn't give it away. My goal today is mostly trying to get some of these sub-biomes started with what we have. No, jungle bat. It's strong. Hoping is that as the jungle spreads, we get more interesting stuff. Take that out and do this. Yeah. Okay. Lousy, but okay. Hey, there's a pinky. Hoping jungle slimes will have something new to help us expand the new places. Kind of a weird hope, but it is a hope. Like, every new area we've gone has given us new stuff. Right? So if I can build a functioning jungle, then maybe... Maybe Shiza, she says. Maybe Shiza. Hi, Limited. This is delimited. Calling you limited is like kind of the opposite of your name, isn't it? I have a good idea. Howdy.
I was coming to hang out with you.
Oh, do you want to see the jungle so far?
See, I dyed my stuff.
Very nice. What you got? Tungsten. Tungsten's alright. How your Discord going on, baby girl? It started. Do I have acorn? I have an acorn now. I'm gonna put an acorn in. Bam. One tree. Maybe that'll amount to something. I don't know. Got a couple jungle bats, but that's all that's really come out of my jungle so far, so. Soon, question mark. Strong. Baby girl, strong. This is why I seem. No tree yet, no. I put the acorn down, but it has to grow. Not ready, alright. These are our smelty situation. Are you still taking every star you get your hands on?
Trying to? If they're in the box.
Yeah. One? Oh, you got it in the copper. Everybody's trying to
I
spend.
did what?
You opened the chest so it blacked out most of my crafting menu. No, that's just how it is. The crafting from nearby chests is helpful, but if anyone gets in a chest, you are no longer able to access with that. It's okay, baby. I'm just smelting in hopes that one of us can have a decent armor. That's 35 lead. It's a lot. Huh? What? Are you muttering over there? What's up? Should I not be smelting? I don't know what you said.
It isn't helpful.
I'm in wood.
So am I.
Everything is helpful. Lead is iron equivalent. Lead's decent. If you don't want it, I will use it. We also have 52 platinum.
I'm gonna use the platinum.
Then use the platinum. I just don't want to be in wood. There's also gold, which is up there, I thought. 30, 20, yeah, nowhere near enough gold. Mind you, without the set bonus, this is still a notable defense boost, so I'm probably just going to do it. Yeah, would Greaves have no bonus? I'll take 4 defense over no defense. I hope that's alright with everybody. I can make the hat, too. What's the hat worth? I should make a gold pick. Where's the picks?
Need wood.
Oh, shit. I need wood. Thank you. So I keep forgetting the bronze pick is actually reducing my placement range. If you're still using the bronze pick, replace it with literally anything. Well, damn girl.
You stole my heart and you kicked it aside. All American Rejects, y'all. Inside you, though, there's no room for me.
Wow. When he's inside you, there's no room for me.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. It's on.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
What?
I just, wow. Portable kiln. Use with materials to place decorative pots.
Are you using the wood?
Huh.
Never had to craft chests before, but yeah.
I have, but I specifically gather all the different kinds of chests when we play, so. When we play Journey, I am the one making all of the things. I'm the maker, and you're the thing for getting.
Finder.
You find, I was trying to think of something that rhymed with maker. All I could think of was Quaker, and I'm like, she's not a Quaker.
Many things.
I am anything.
Is there a reason why you have I'm taking it?
What?
Who's the-
You have a dice box?
Okay, which house are you living in, dude, bro? I literally moved it because you were not in the right house, and now you're in a different house. I'm pissed. Stay where you are supposed to be,
All right.
motherfucker. God damn. Stay in your lane.
Angry.
Great.
Oh, I love you.
Move that box 4 times because you keep moving chairs. I'm used with chairs with a dwarf down there.
Why don't you check who's living in which house?
I just did.
Okay.
I double checked.
Okay.
He moves again, I'm gonna kill him.
Oh, you're gonna kill him?
I am going to go down and get a bucket of lava and use that to kill him, and hopefully he drops his scimitar.
You found a bucket of lava?
No, I am going to go down and get one.
Oh, there's no lava down there.
If you kill a lava slime in hell, there will be.
Only on a high enough difficulty.
No,
Did they change it for Skyblock?
it's for Skyblock.
Have you been watching other people or something? Oh, you've been watching other people. You've cheated on me.
Bitch, I'm Polly.
Ah, that's true. I can't dish that out and not take it. That's a lot of zombies I'm not dealing with. We're standing at the edge of the... I was literally standing on the edge of a cliff. Like, I should probably do anything about that. Thank you. I'm trying to make it so that we can eventually make a way to go down into the underground region. You know what I mean? My range still ain't great. But I also need to make it so it's big enough that it's like, you know, spreading jungle, so...
I never realized that those zombies that have the arrows
Drop
have
arrows.
arrows sticking out of them.
Yeah.
I just thought they had multiple arms.
Oh, they're arrows.
No, they're arrows.
Extremely useful arrows.
Yeah.
In this present
I
kick
thought
state.
those zombies just had multiple. I thought
Well,
they had like 6 arms or something.
congratulations on learning. How do you feel? Oh, yeah, we can get new bugs and stuff, huh? Hey, bye, Shooting Star. Enjoy actual hell.
I'm wasting my bone arrows.
I don't know either, baby. I don't know why you do what you do.
I'm just trying to protect, man.
I just know that you do it, and I appreciate you. That's what I appreciate about you. Oh, is that what you appreciate about me? Yeah.
No, you don't protect.
Anything wrong?
Protect.
Yeah, you're kind of the buff one right now, baby. I don't know what to tell
Yeah, my defense 17.
13, and that's about 6 higher than it was a bit ago. Hi, Lizzie. 20 stream streak. Damn, girl.
Damn, girl.
Girl-esque.
Your eyes. You stole my heart and aside.
Burlesque sounds like a very specific burlesque show. Like a drag burlesque show. Like, yeah, I mean, we're girl-esque. Like, dangerous.
Also, I totally thought that the zombies that have gel on them were zombies that have water bubbles on them. I'm just now realizing a lot of different sprites are
Relevant?
relevant
Mm-hmm.
because I'm stupid.
You're not stupid. The game just has a lot of details. It don't matter so much to the Queen Finder until there's nothing to find. Once there's nothing to find, yeah, you suddenly are learning some new shit. There we go. That should be a lot of room for my jungle to spread. I got 23 left. You got 23 left.
Opposed to 20.
Ha ha ha! Ha 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 ha! Aim to laugh. No. No. No, that's... was the Tom Hardy punch your dad in the dick.
I don't. Don't ask me questions that I don't know the answer to.
How do you not know that? I love that song.
Because I don't like Tom Hardy.
Freaky.
Honestly, I kind of find him annoying.
Why?
Because he did the whole song about dogs and cats. Dogs are better than cats. No,
That was one short
don't care.
years ago now.
Don't care.
Okay.
Anybody who has a thing against cats is a thing against me.
I see. I'm going to sell this annoying sickle. Because it's an annoying sickle. It does 7 damage because it's minus 22% damage and minus 17% speed. That's all it has on it. If you'd like to ask further questions, no, shut up, take that. That will silence the haters.
Okay.
What? You have to go down further? Oh, time to get the big pile of rope and go to town, I guess. Alright. I just started feeling confident enough to go down where we're at. The only thing below caverns is hell, isn't it? Ooh. Alright. Do you have the rope? You don't want to mix in my 500 vine rope. Oh. Why are my eyes blurring? Do not do. Oh, where the rope went. You sure you don't have the rope?
Oh, I do have the rope.
Okay. It's like,
Okay.
okay! I was gonna grab the rope and come help. I was like, there's no rope. You just fucking took it. You just fucking disappeared. What up for you? That butterfly went mad up his. Okay.
You didn't hear my Goofy.
Heard your Goofy. I thought it was Peanut.
What?
I was quoting Peanut. I know, but
I don't like him anymore. He's a woman hater.
he's a lot of things. Jeff Dunham is... He's a dude.
He's a white guy.
He's a white guy.
He's a white guy.
He sure is a white man in America. Fun house. Fill my bucket. Fill my bucket. Make it wet. Make it wet. In ponds, making dar 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 bar bar bar.
Raining?
Yes, just started raining.
Make more than one bucket.
I am making.
Make a stack of buckets.
I'm making stack of 4 bucket. I can make
Make
it.
more than 4.
Okay, I will take off my bucket head and I will use it to do this.
Make more than 5. Make like 10.
But it's our iron. Our precious Iron.
Can't right now, phone. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, we have 100 fucking things on
I
iron.
am busy.
Wow. Okay, I made 10 more
Keeping my
buckets.
Head off my
Head, shoulders,
It
knees,
wasn't
and toes.
you, so I don't know who it was from.
Knees and toes. I don't know who it's from either. It's not my Discord.
I just now got that text from Mom.
Which one?
Thanks for letting us bust in on your evening.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Or that? No, I just now got the text from Twitch saying that you're live.
Oh. I mean,
Oh, where are you?
home.
There. There, put that on your head.
Okay. I think that will get me one step closer to a delicious something.
You want this?
I have one.
Want this?
Absolutely, I think. 55 versus... Oh. Apparently bone pickaxe is the same as mine, but can't mine meteorite. Because meteorite matters so much. I think this pond is done, so I'm going to go for a walk.
You're not catching animals.
I'm sorry, I'm very distracted by task. I try to catch animals. I put them in the thing all the time. I catch worms and I catch the birds and stuff that I can catch. Now that I'm fast, I could maybe help more with that, but... I'm also, you know, task. Glow stick. Working on task, baby.
Stay on task.
What's that from? Oh. I'm sorry to have done anything that even remotely reminds you of that horrible, shitty place. Do you still love me? That was the wrong thing.
Oh, here, I have something for you.
I am nowhere near you.
I'm coming.
Not yet, sweetheart.
I can't do that.
That's hard to do. I can
can't
barely
do
do
that.
That's more like Chris's range. Oh shit, we got a man-eater. Snatcher or whatever. The one we can get on not hard mode. Wait.
Can't growl like that.
It's not easy. Unless I've just had, like, a sickness, then I can do it.
Gotta get up, come on, get down with the sickness. You mother
Get down with the sickness. Watch out for my buckets.
Open up your face and let it go to me.
Open up my face?
I don't know the lyrics.
Open up my face and let it... I get it, because it's a germ. Yeah. Okay, I'm here. This tree does not want to grow. As if it can't have deep roots or something.
Yay!
What?
I got 2 jungle birds.
Now, the real test is going to be if we go back and we get, See? I have 2 rounds.
Oh, you already have one?
You gave me one.
Oh, well, now you have 2. We'll give it back, then I'll go sell it.
Okay, they stack.
For
Money. We've got to have. Are you serious? My tree grew. Yup.
What's wrong with it?
I'm about as tall as it is.
You go RNG this.
Wow, it took forever, too. Like, do you like it? Do you like me, Daddy? Do I make you proud, Mom?
Oh God, I found something just for you.
Oh, hey, we have the jungle music. I just noticed.
Hey,
What?
your favorite thing.
Oh, if noise suppression is just going to say no to that or what. I think you took my buckets.
Did.
I was making jungle water for jungle things to jungle spawn in. As they...
Piranha.
Piranhas and bamboo. I don't know what makes bamboo spawn or if bamboo ever spawns. But I was kind of trying.
Piranha. Name that movie.
It's not Nemo, is it?
It is.
Oh. Like, that can only be like 2 things. I don't think you're big on, like, Shark Tale or whatever the DreamWorks one is. The Will Smith one.
The bucket tail.
Yeah, I was filling my bucket by drinking water. Alright. Buggies are, like, really good bait, too, aren't they?
They are... Where are 15% bait power.
You think? I'm not much of a thinker lately. I'm more of a doer. I was wondering if we get enough space out here, we can, like, make a little jungle town. I don't know if we have anyone that would want to live in one yet, but it's one of 2 real biomes I can build right now, so I can make a jungle town, bitches. Got nothing.
We need to summon Iron Cthulhu. We need to beat his ass.
Well,
I just got mushroom grass seeds.
really?
Yes.
Well, damn. I told you how to make... Do we want to do that above or below ground, then? Okay. Well, then. How's your dirt supply these days? We might need to go farm one.
Mud, not dirt.
I know, but you can turn dirt into mud. That's how I've been getting mud. I told you this last time. It's, if you are in or right by a body of water, you can now turn dirt into mud. So, that's how I've been making our jungle, but that's why we're down to like 300 dirt. I was using it.
Well, I need to build another house.
Okay. Ah. You're harvesting from our dirt supplies.
There is, I do know something about Skyblock that I could tell you.
Okay.
If you're interested.
Sure, man.
There is another island on every sea.
One
There
other
are
island?
2.
Oh, is it the dungeon?
It's the Shimmer.
Really?
There is a Shimmer
And it's just somewhere.
just somewhere.
fuck. All right, that's we have a flying mount situation. All right, I'm turning basically this whole stack of dirt into mud.
Oh, I need
Need what? I mean, we can get more dirt by going underground, just killing dirt slimes. They spawn. Yeah, but they do spawn. They spawn quite a bit on the middle layer. That's just not where you spend your time. There it goes. Some of my bucket. Put the mushroom underground.
Do you want a slime whip or a slime spear?
I have a slime whip.
Okay.
Okay! Sorry, I'm in a cat bug mood, apparently. Well, I should work
I
on...
want a plushie cat.
That's probably out there.
Oh.
He was very popular when the show was running.
Did that show ever actually finish?
I don't know. It had comics and stuff, too. Bravest Warriors did all sorts of shit. I don't know what exactly they did in the end.
Too short. Too short.
That's what she said. Oh. Ouch!
I just found the dirtiest block.
Really?
I shit you not.
On our island?
On our island.
That's awesome. That's one way to change the subject.
Hey.
Uh-huh.
Terraria saved your butt.
But not my pride. It's fine, I'll give it to someone who cares. As soon as I find one! Oh. If I had one! Yeah. Meow! I'm so criminally unsexy. Imagine being hot.
Yeah, I can't imagine that, sorry.
Imagine being four. I said four higher. Yeah, I'm being real mean to myself. I did not get the seed from you. The mushroom seed.
Oh, no, you did not.
Also, that's what she said. Oof. It's fine. I'll start by making it so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm worried about the mushroom grasses. Mushroom grasses' love of darkness. Hello, sir. We were just talking about you. Don't you do that. Got 23 more dirt. The dirt slime? I tend to hang out on the first layer still a lot. Not all of us are big, brave girls like you.
Oh, I'm awesome.
You are. Everyone knows it. If they don't know it, what's that one from? I know that.
I don't know, that was out of my ass. That was out of my butt. Like, ooh.
So when they were talking about the 4400 or whatever, and mentioned the little psychic girl, I went straight to, they're coming! They're almost here!
I know, I heard you.
I couldn't help it. We know it's right fucking there! They're gonna get us! Right, I'll take more dirt. I'll take lots more dirt. What are you? You're a funny color. You're just mysteriously brown. I... Dangerously. Living really dangerously. No!
How made you watch Johnny Dangerously?
Is that the one with the ice hole?
Yes.
I don't think I've seen it, but my father has mentioned it a few thousand times. He really likes the ice hole.
You watch Johnny Dangerously.
Okay.
And it's Bruce Willis, so, which is sad because Bruce Willis is not Bruce Willis anymore.
Sorry.
He has early onset dementia and like something else. Like he can't even read and talk. He's in full 24-hour care.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, he is not a well man. Can't read, can't write, doesn't recognize his family, kind of stuff.
Bad. So bad. Sorry.
You see Catherine O'Hara died?
I did.
Depressing.
Sorry.
Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas. She played Locke right before Christmas. She was Kevin's mom.
Oh, Sally and Block?
She was Sally and Locke, yes.
Oh. Oh,
At least she's been in a concert with Danny Elfman a few times playing Locke anyway.
well, I knew she was Locked, because that's the thing I saw credited online. What?
Still lies on.
I just have a lot of slime. Just like, almost could be raining slime amounts of slime. Also, the occasional chunk of dead snail on account of all the slimes killing the snails. Hello? Yeah, our crystals were all excited for a second. Like, did I finally get one? Oh, goodbye! Just hanging out down here and I see a shooting star go shooting down the hole into hell. Like, oh, alright. Enjoy. Have a nice trip. Soon I won't be anyone's problem.
I'm on vacation.
I have some vacation time coming up.
Not a bad group of dogs.
It was really funny. Unless you meant mine, in which case, thank you. I didn't realize it was any good. Thank you. I didn't know it was any good. This is the last cup of coffee I'll ever have.
The tea.
Because tomorrow I'm switching to tea. Oh, Droopy, no.
Make me a world person if I want to make this a person.
No. Maybe you're just craving a Totino's.
Goodbye, Mr. Zombie. What
What weapon are you using right now?
He was like walking on the platform under me, and he just rainbow zombie just walked towards me, jumped off the edge of the world.
Dude, I won't be anyone's problem.
Just like walk, jump off the edge of the world.
And they walk, meet a big bird!
What is your weapon right now?
I'm mostly using the flaming mace because I really like the
What's
flaming
your
mace.
damage?
It is when I actually swing at like 18, but it's more about the attack speed for me.
Well, I got a zombie arm.
Well, that might be okay. Have you tried swinging it?
Yes.
They updated that.
Yeah, throws. And it's automatic. It's automatically swinging, though.
That's good. That is a good thing. What's its damage?
15 plus 15% knockback.
It's not bad. Bone Sword you gave me is better.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate it. Just mind if it says material now, because who knows what's changed.
Yeah.
For all we know, there's a super mega zombie arm we really like to go.
Shackles are...
Yes, shackles are material. They're used for handcuffs and a couple other things. They're part of a mage upgrade chain. That's not new. I don't know if there's new stuff too. Oh. Cool.
Okay, I'm coming to get chicken. I have your mushrooms.
All right. I've made a nice couple spots for them to grow. I've been farming slimes. Still haven't seen any marble guys spawn, so I wonder if I need marble wall or something for that. I wonder if there's... do I need the cursed marble wall? Do I need to make it in the ectomist, maybe? I don't know either. Something to keep in mind. I think French fries asking where's the ketchup means you should be able to merge French fries with ketchup to make French fries with ketchup.
But that would require them to have to throw in ketchup.
Oh no, a new Sprite food item. Nice dirt. I have 133 dirt. Know what else I have?
I just put the...
Well, that's fine. They like darkness and they like water anyway, so that should be fine. I had that single for a reason, but that's fine. Yeah, if it spreads through to the bottom... It spreads through to the bottom, it will spread around the bottom part faster, too. And it'll make those vines that glow down there. You know what I'm talking about? That was my thinking. My other thinking was I may as well put a bunch of water because mushroom biomes always have a big chunk of water. So. And then if I can get mushroom vines, even better, but I don't know if that turns into rope or not. Yeah. Okay, we've started a mushroom biome. 3-star. Thank you. We've started a jungle biome. Tried to start a marble biome, but I think I fucked it up. So we need more marble for that. Repurpose some of what we have. No rush. I am exploring and thinking and trying to make... Well, you know, on the upside, I got a lot of dirt. I got 150 plus dirt. You know what the sparks joy in you? Well, you said we had no dirt. They never spawn.
Well, you using the dirt to make mud?
Yeah, I gotta make mud to make biomes. I'm working it, girl. I'm work hard or die trying, girl.
Work hard, die trying.
Oh, good. It's raining again, so I get more water. Got 57 pink slime and a bunch of other stuff.
Get me out! Get me out! I got webbed!
Not webbed. You work hard, you don't work hard, you work smart, sometimes just not at all. Oh, do you cold bowl it? That's a B joke. That's a joke just for me. Said he doesn't work hard, he works smart, or sometimes not at all. I'm like, what are you, code bullet? I programmed something, something, something. Oops, I just kind of went ahead and made ChatGPT do it that one time. Nom, 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 nom. Hey. That worked out pretty well. I was making a Bob's Burgers reference. Oh, to be a goldfish that realized the rain just stopped and started booking it. I got nowhere to live. Oh, oh, oh. Need a few acorns. Oh, I missed. Shot again. Missed. It's for baby. Baby likes when I bring her birds.
Yeah, I'll take that upgrade. That's good.
What happened?
Got a godly bone pickaxe.
Damn. Alright. Hey, we have jungle background. Actually coming along quite nice if you look at it. It's not big, but it's coming along. Here's a moonglow slime. Alright, that's our first moonglow as far as I know. It's now raining again. And it rains a lot. I guess because that's our only way to get water. Maybe it's just trying to throw us that bone. I have no idea. Okay, it crossed this, which is what I wanted for that. Grab this dirt here. Let's cross this, which is close enough to what I'm at. These. Stretch them out just a bit. Alright. The goal is to grow the jungle. We got the mushrooms started. We've got the jungle good enough. We got a background. Getting there. We are getting there. We have some defense now, so we don't just get murdered by every little thing. Good, because I play like a slob. Calamity mod player I am not, can you tell? That's a lot of flying fish, game. Why are you throwing so many flying fish at me? I guess you can't throw normal fish at me. You may as well get the ones you got. Yeah, I just wanted to plant some trees. I got the rain song. Alright. Well, that got me an achievement. But unfortunately did not kill any slimes, though. I was surrounded by umbrella slimes. Just a shitload. Umbrella slimes and flying fish for decades. Just a crap ton. Apparently umbrella slimes just don't want to carry anything, nor do they want to drop an umbrella for me. So they're kind of just pissing me off. Phone beep. Well, what do you got? Honey. Honey.
Yeah.
I just got honey blocks. You been getting those?
Yeah.
Oh. What do I do with honey block?
You can combine it with a bucket to make a honey bucket.
Isn't that also required to make Queen Bee summon at some point? Oh. Bucket to
She's
make.
got a godly rally.
Good. Pretty good.
Stop giving you stuff.
Gave me the rally. Sorry, I got my favorite fucking toy in the world right now. I'm good. Thank you. Tell me if there's an upgraded mace. I think the next one comes from Corruptor Crimson, and we ain't got those, so I don't know how I'm gonna get a better toy than this. It's my favorite toy. I can just hold the button and it spins around me, and things leave me alone because they go ow, 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 and it works for a good while. It's not perfect. You can get stronger. It's not ideal for bosses or whatever. For like this, where the mobs are just like, here's a million guys. Boy, look at all my glow sticks, dog. I'm getting so much money. I just got the 50th flying fish. Daughter is obsessed with umbrellas. Duly noted, Solar. I don't know what to do with that information, but if it ever comes up, now I know.
Gotta get her a Bluey umbrella birthday, or for her birthday.
Does she like Bluey too?
Like,
Well, I'm glad she has taste. Oh, the macaw got away. No, Mr. Macaw, that's the hole. Mr. Macaw. The macaw went to heck. Heck and heck.
heck and a hang.
I think there was another macaw and a slime ate it. There's so many mobs. Holy shit. Just because they can't spawn in little dark crevasses and stuff on this. Stiff? Stiff. They can't spawn stiff. Nailing it. I am so good at communication. I spawn stiffly. Look out. Here comes my stiff spawn. I'm normal. I'm normal. Love of God, I'm... Well, that looks like frog guts there, so... I have to kill these guys now. Exactly. Hey, you did a bad thing. You have fucked up now. Hey, that tree's better.
It's because I planted it.
Hey, that is the one you planted. Wow. Took it a while.
Yeah. Have to save up. Then it got erect.
Oh! Erect! Torbeck is interested! Ah! Succumbed. I can say succumb!
You hear that?
Yeah. Poor lady. She doesn't always DM, but when she does, they just torture her, it seems like. Mind you, they torture everyone when they DM. Like, even the Chuckles guy, when he's DMing, it's just like, they're torturing each other at that point. That's
a good D&D party. Talking to Stone about our experiences with Loot Crate. He's like, that's not D&D. That is Chris telling a story and you guys are puppets.
Just dicking around and having fun. And I don't even know what the plot of that, if they have a plot in Once Upon a Witchlight. No clue. I just know that they make me laugh. I should probably watch it at some point. It seems like something I could do passively. But I don't know. I've watched enough of the shorts that even you're like, you should really just watch that. I'm like, yeah, maybe. Maybe I should. Maybe I should suck less. Oh, no acorn for me, huh? Imagine having all the field in the world to grow and you still like, I'm a fruitless tree. To be fair, not a lot of root depth, I suppose. Get the vein rope. So much vein rope. Okay. Well, I come bearing a frog, a goldfish, a rain song. Where did you get that?
Bought it.
Oh. Nice. These are both for me?
Yep.
Dang, girl, I play song.
What are you at? What's your health at?
I couldn't see. 200.
Around 220.
I could spawn anytime now. You liked my song? Played it just for you.
Do you want my deadly bone pickaxe?
Oh, my fish didn't stay. No, I'm using the Zealous Gold. It works well for now, and it can mine meteorite if that ever happens. I'm going to put our 2 honey block in the box for now. Oh, but I will give you this. I'll give you flour. Honey block, mahogany. I'm gonna put my rain song in my thing so I can serenade you anytime I want. As per my name. Gotta earn that title.
Put marble in the box, and there's enough granite that you can start making a granite biome.
Noted. I have to do some experiments with marble, but I will get to that in a bit.
Granite.
A lot of granite. Mind you, the marble experiments will also contribute to the granite, so.
See my dirt block?
I did. I even commented on it.
Dirt.
I said, nice dirt. You said, thanks.
Thanks, I dug it.
Our mushroom has not spread at all. Well, in that case... pivot.
I'm gonna go hang out in the jungle.
Okay.
Why? Because that's where I got the mushroom seed.
It's also where I put in a lot of work, so I hope you enjoy it there. When do we get to hell? When we go there, I guess. Right now, Mike, I wonder if mushroom grass doesn't spread in water.
Why not?
I'm also dealing with 6,000 slimes! Hi, bird.
Hello, bird! I love you!
I wonder who Katie's favorite is.
Bird is Katie's friend.
Zero hesitance. It's Bird!
Did Bird say hi to me?
Hi, I love you too.
See, Bird look.
Solar says me and him are left out.
Aw, kiss each other.
Okay. Solar, let's smooch. Mwah, big boy.
Solar, you can be loved too. I love you too, Solar.
You responded with an emote that I can't really see from where I'm at, but kind of looks like a Migusta. It was not a Migusta. It was a yay! Which is kind of a Migusta. I haven't thought about Migusta in a long time, but there it was in my head. Like, that's a Migusta. But that's because I have what the kids call bad eyes. Dog shit eyes. The limited is peeking. Every time I see that, I think it's like a bonfire or something. No, he's just peeking. Oh, yeah. I gotta get close enough to the surface to know it's raining, but not to see the rain. Dirt.
Shooting star just killed a zombie for 575 damage.
A lot of damage. You know what else is a lot of damage?
You telling you have a tiny penis?
I was gonna say something about like my mother being like unapproving of my life or something, but your thing is also bad. Thank you. I'm emotional damage.
Just because I said that I'm
Ah, so you're a liar, but you're not good at it, and yet I still believe
I got a
you.
magic frog. I need purification powder.
I don't even know how to get us that right now. I could look. Is there? I think we need vial powder to start, don't we? We need a dryad. We don't get a dryad until we beat a boss. It's one of the main ones, and not the stupid what you call it. Slime King with his own theme song I can't record yet. Loading up the Journey World just to go get more music boxes. And make baby, guess what? Again, gotta earn that title of Serenade. Oh, that's a lot of rats! That's nice. Dude! Mouse, snail, worm, worm, snail, mouse, worm, worm.
You realize that you did not complete the vine rope in Body of Water.
Uh,
the jungle?
It was a complete vine rope, and then I uncompleted it. Well, I was mostly just trying to make it so that it would spread the mud in there, and then I tweaked things, and I guess I'm a messed up individual, and you should point at me. Made you drown? You died? Then I'm confused. Oh, well, enjoy hell. Oh, wow, Liz said chickens or something. Mouse, snail, worm, worm, worm in emote form. So, I can't wait to get to report. Good job. Worm was the most used emote in chat this time. New mission, everyone. Spam the worm.
I say hi to friends.
Oh, yeah. Katie said hi, Lizzie. Right. Would you still like us if we only used worm? Yes. See, now that buckets get water out in the rain, I want to see if you can get, like, other things when there's, like, the other rain. Because there are other rains. I don't know if you know about those at all. Yeah, it can rain more than just water now.
What? I know it can rain boulders.
Yeah. There's an achievement for surviving the boulders. There's an achievement for... Well, I don't know if there's an achievement. I know there's meteorite rain now.
Yikes.
I think it just rains chunks of ore. And then, like, giant meteorites destroying your fucking world. Which on this seed... That's gonna hurt if that happens. But hey. First we have to hit the condition where meteorites can happen. Sup, girl? How's it hanging?
Fine. Killing zombies.
Girl, I got a mango. You like mad jealous? You should be mad jealous of me and my...
I don't want to. Potato chips are better than that.
I ate the fry you gave me just to be polite. I was like, I should eat that instead of sitting on it. I'm not getting acorns from that tree either.
Mahogany don't drop acorns.
You industrialize heavily and not manage emissions, you could collect acid rain. I think that works in this game.
Oh!
What?
That zombie killed a frog.
Here, I'll gaslight gatekeep the zombies for you. Zombie vines with light on them look like corn.
That zombie killed a frog.
Red rum. 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 See, I used to think that the blue on the zombie wasn't. I used to think it was a fishbowl.
I thought it was water.
Mm. Then I realized when they drop a lot of gel, and I went, oh. Where I was reading the wiki, and it's like this slime zombie. The what? Oh, okay. There's a lot of stars in the house. All right. That's still not spreading. Is this one torch over here causing issues? Hey. Dumb yellow dirt slime. Yellow slime. 23 dirt. Much dirt for Sarah. Sarah Dirt Queen. Sarah Dirty Girl.
Dirt block.
Sarah needs a hat and just turns her into a block of dirt. I know what caused acid rain. I grew up in the 90s. We talked about acid rain a lot back then. I don't even know if it's gotten better or if we just stopped caring. Should I try to be like Baby and be brave and go down? Okay, yes, out of context, that does sound bad. You may snort at me.
Like
But that's rude. How are you even mean to me? I think I'm gonna die. Heard it's pretty wet up there. Don't want my bones getting soggy and mushy. Climbing claws. We have the shoes, right? I feel like I need to get that just to have both. Roller skates. Alright, dude. Excuse me a minute.
Okay, Kate, stop taking damage so you can save frogs.
Shop. Really, they're about. Okay. Strange brew.
Oh shit, is he down there?
Yeah.
I need more strange brew, I'm out.
You need strange brew.
I'm coming.
He's got a purple counterweight if we want that for any reason.
I'm coming. I'm in Jack Sellington.
He's got the roller skates if you need him for placement. Sometimes I put that in the block things to say, dude. Should I get the counterweight just to say we have it?
I have a purple.
Oh.
Locked yourself in with a Shelly.
Yay, any healing that's not lesser healing. Why?
So you locked in with a Shelly.
Oh, I didn't see the Shelly
Didn't you?
inside. Just cover you. Sorry, I was just trying to take care of it.
Party rollers.
I got one already. They're for.
I have a whole platinum in my bank already.
I just say solar. Roller skates are for skating. Roller skates allow you to skate on the ground at placing speed. So you can, while mounted on your roller skate, instead of the slime, move one block at a time at the exact pace you drop things, so you just have to go forward and hold the button. I finally got it out of my mouth. Oh my god. That was not easy. I'm sorry.
Look, we match. We look like we.
We look like we just came from the SCP Foundation. Excuse me, sirs. Have you been starting a delve to Hades here?
I put some rope down. I just can't get very far. There's bad guys.
Ah. Like that rat.
There. So I can go down.
You gotta do a platform. Look how small the cavity is right now. There you go.
He's the Lord help me.
Yeah. That's why I had these things. Uh-oh.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay with the skeleton rain. Skeleton rain. Big dumb bastards falling on my head. Skeleton rain. I'm assailed now by all the undead. Skeleton rain. Want me murdered, they aren't very nice. Skeleton rain. Leave me alone, that is my advice. Skeleton rain. It is dark as hell when you're down here. Skeleton rain. It is filling my heart up with fear. Skeleton rain. I'm never sure if I see the end. Skeleton rain.
There, man.
My pants so much I need depends. Skeleton rain. Oh, yeah, that's the end of the rope so far. Just saw a worm go down. Uh-oh. Maybe health meter scaly. Get her? Hey, well, you're almost dead. So it's like, uh-oh. It's hitting me. Oh, I didn't even see you, Mr. Granite Slime. You're something I guess I was taking for granted. Oh. That. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Got fish, zombie, skeleton man. Black slime's already down. Mother slime. This slime's just black slime but darker. Very nice, dead rat. Sad. 2 dead mice. 2 dead mice. Swinging my mace is my only vice. Hey, you got the new one. Balloony beads. I got a new voice thing. It makes you go like this. You pop. Little cartoon-like bubble pop noise, like almost like a. Oh.
I have the old companion locket.
Yeah, I know, because it makes RPG noise. I don't know. I have a few. I've got the zombie one, the goblin one. Can't scream like a guitar. It's not allowed. Did you mean to give me your potato chips again?
I gave you one of my potato chips, but I was sharing.
Thank you. They were so yummy. Would you like a mango? Mango, 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 mango. I like the pirate collecting the booty. Where's the mango? Where is the mango? Where's the mango? Here's the mango. Here is the mango. Here's the mango. I'm strange.
I started it.
Yes, but I went too far. Oh, stink bugs. Apparently there's a stink bug sword now. Yeah, one of the achievements, I looked at the achievements last night. One of them is to scare a villager with a stink bug sword. Ask me how to make that. Stink bug sword. I'll get you. I caught it a blue jay. Oh no, pigeon got that. Okay. One thing from D Hopper that will never age poorly to me. I was never very good at Pokemon. Caught it a pigeon. Oh no, pigeon got zapped. It's stupid, just like me. Dun-dun-dun. Reading Rainbow. Go, buddy!
You son of a bitch!
I keeps gonna say I don't catch animals. I caught that one. I caught the bunny. I caught the squirrels. I caught the birdies. I caught herpes. Dying alone, dying alone, dying alone.
Untouchable with a pockmark.
A pockmarked penis.
The herpes.
I get it. I'm not sure I'm happy about it. Dying alone. Why isn't this fucking doing it? These apples, you're gonna get a wicked bad tummy ache. Testing something weird. Kind of my only idea why this isn't working. Dudes, can you fuck off for like 3 seconds?
No.
Honestly.
Cat face.
He's got a big cat face. He's got the body of a cat and the face of a cat. And he flies through the air because he's got a cat face. A cat face. There's a jellyfish. I can't find it. Hey, double dirt slime, double dirt slime, double dirt slime.
I've never made money like this. Money and or fist.
Oh yeah, no, it's big on money. The drop rate seems way higher in this.
I don't know what unit is.
Like Eye of Cthulhu?
Yeah.
Well, our health is over 200, so I think it just can now. Does it matter? If he decides to show up, he decides to show up. Sorry that happened to you. Alright, well, I've unlocked the ability to make various sad-looking walls and creepy signs. And so far, that's it right this second, but I'll keep looking. I need to grab the marble and see if that lets me make
give me mushroom seed! No, they're craft seeds, motherfucker!
Give me mushroom seed. Lizelle on assignment. Read my book.
But it's full of thorns!
Well, yeah, that's how you get the seed.
Hey, people should read my book.
People should read your book. Baby, you can place the bunny. I'm going to give the merchant a pet golden bunny. Oh, but it keeps the 5 health. I don't think that's worth it. If anything happens, that fucker dies.
I'm in a cage. Oh, we don't have glass.
We don't have glass. They're glasses.
There's gotta be a way. There's gotta be. You should look up and see what we can put in the extractinator. Got an extractinator.
Ash. No, not ash. Silt and slush.
I know that, but it might be different.
I don't think it is.
I do think it is, though.
Why? Because you want to believe?
You're at a place where you're at home. So.
Material, wireable, placing some items in the extractinator turns into something more useful.
See? See?
Processes items from adjacent chests when signaled.
Yeah. Not a lot.
Someone's been video binging, huh?
No, I mean, I've seen that a lot. That tooltip on a lot of it.
Mm. Okay. Give me this torch. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Wooden extractinator, go. Nothing. Gel and extractinator. Nothing. Oh, wow. The town slimes have portraits. I didn't expect that for some reason. Okay, the star block, extractinator, nothing. Granite, extractinator, nothing. Keep that on me. Office block, nothing. Hey, sadly nothing. I don't know what I believed. Dirt, nothing from dirt. Mud, nothing from mud. Give me that. Or throw it way the fuck over there, also good. Cloud, nothing comes out of cloud. Easter, bad. Stone, no. Honey, no. Marble, no. Conveyor belt, no. Not looking promising, baby girl. Everything at our disposal, nothing seems to really work right this second.
Magical frog.
Am I more excited for Luchador Vale or Drag Queen Gab? Oh dear. I think those are her 2 newest skeb requests. I remembered something about Gavin and drag queens, but the rest didn't really register with my little brain until just now. You're excited for Luchador Vale?
Okay.
Yeah. Star still shirtless like a normal luchador.
The dog and pony show.
Okay. Smells like expired cilantro. That's the ghostly stink plug. The stink bug blocker smells like cilantro. Ghostly stink bug blocker smells like expired cilantro.
Either way, it tastes like soap to me.
Why are you eating it?
Because that's what you do with cilantro. You eat it.
Yeah, but it's not cilantro. It just smells like cilantro.
What did you just eat?
Fried chicken.
Yes.
Tawi. Make them lunch.
We'll make a Totino.
Okay. Give me a minute. I'm placing marble walls. I think Katie was excited for Luchador Vale. There is something fun about Drag Queen Gavin.
I did not say I was excited. I was
Oh.
making a comment. Oh, literally said Luchador Vale, huh?
Whereas they're known on stage, Tia de los Muertos or Gavin de Crotch.
Dia de los Muertos, obviously.
Yeah, that is like her favorite holiday. Huh. Alright. Come get it. Pile of slimes under me. This game of hopscotch is really boring for me, guys. Did you maybe, are there two pink? No, that's, okay, what? Excuse me. No. Excuse me. No. Excuse me. No. Excuse me. No. Excuse me, no. Excuse me, no.
Can't help it. I have to save the frogs from the dog.
Alright, so in the future we're going to make Kazi a frog house. For all of her frogs to live in. The background is just going to be a wall of frog cages. Hey, that's getting spread. I wonder if that's why. It's weird. Put a roof over it. Put a roof over it, spread fucking immediately. Maybe it's just coincidental. I don't know. I don't know. You have to be in the area of the jungle for it to work. You know, I can make an owl live underground. Just a real rude bitch. You have a special little perch when you're placing them. Try placing an animal. You can place animals like furniture. They just still have life bars and shit. They can still die. They're still entities. You just dictate, here's this guy, he lives here. Yeah, it didn't seem to work well for some things, like goldfish, but it worked great for the bunny.
Tell the bunny?
No, it's in my,
Tell the gold bunny.
Fool? Just I'm a good girl who behaves. Doesn't mean I'm a fool.
Behave.
I've lost that plot already. Me and no. You dumb hoe. Imagine being two mice standing in the dark and you see a ball of fire and think, I want to run right into that. Me too, Paul. Honeys. If there's any mushroom growing, there's a chance for mushroom grass. There's a chance for mushroom grass seeds. Naturally, instead of just from a slime. Why did he open his bedroom door, wolf whistle 3 times, and make his door squeak for 30 seconds before just going back into his room? He might be trying to seduce you, and he's bad at it. I don't know. Fortunately, we all have the power of just saying, no. Oh no! Appropriate response. Be like, sorry, I have an annoying man at home. I don't... I don't need you. We have obnoxious at home. Show them photos of your chickens. I know.
Chickens are scary.
I was trying to get over the wolf whistling 3 times part. That one's throwing me. I know, but in a row.
That's hard.
Right?
That's difficult.
That's almost a skill. A skill in being fucking weird as hell. That's a talent. That's a horrible, evil, shitty talent. Like, what can you do?
I think it's signaling for the zombies to come and kill him.
Oh yeah, he does want that zombie apocalypse action. Maybe that's why. Maybe he's into zombie pussy.
Yeah.
Finally, a girl who won't talk back. I'm just trying to think in the mindset of someone that watches Mr. Beast for fun. It's not my natural state. I don't know what to tell you. Liz just said, oh no. All caps. I hope it wasn't my fault, but it probably was. Oh. Just don't show him Casey, alright? I don't need that kind of action in my inbox. See, now I'm sitting here and it's not growing. It only grows when I'm not here. It just grows slowly. Maybe mushroom just sucks. Has anyone thought that maybe mushroom just sucks? Like, maybe it just sucks. Yeah. Not showing him anything. That's valid. Thank you for not showing him anything. I don't know how to feel about ball shake being the name of that emote. They're quivering with fear. I don't like mushrooms as I don't like how their cells work. That's very specific. Alright. That's delimited. I like mushrooms in my mouth. That also sexual.
I need water! I need water!
Did you hear, baby? Liz likes mushrooms in her mouth. Liz likes mushrooms in her mouth. I was taking it as a penis thing. Let's be friends. I like mushrooms too. Let's be friends. And that's how Katie accidentally gets invited to the orgy. I thought... I thought we were eating mushrooms. Oh, we are. Oh, we are. That's called adaptability, babes. That's part of why I love her. She's a survivor, an adapter, and a champion. You all wish you were my wife. And that you were Katie.
You me? Bitch?
What?
You got a problem.
What did I do wrong now? I think you're taking my
Can I
phrase.
borrow some of your...
Is that a penis? I guess you can borrow some of my water.
You're not using it to fish.
Yeah, not yet. Why do you need water? Are you making a frog enclosure? Did I call you out immediately? Oh my god, I am having issues with placement in the dark.
I don't have words right now.
For what?
For you.
Why? Because I'm right? Is it because I knew immediately what you were doing? As soon as I said you could place animals, you're like, oh!
Not fair.
Why is it not fair, Kate?
Because
Because I know you?
so much.
Why? Because I know you?
You're such a dick.
Why am I a dick? I'm a dick because I called you out and I know you and stuff. You're gonna cry now? Babe. I love you. Goober.
I'm gonna take a lame ass now.
You're not a lame ass, you just like frogs. Holy shit.
I like frogs. Froggy.
You like frogs. It doesn't make you a lame ass. Why'd you be a lame ass for liking frogs? Every cool girl I've ever met likes some sort of reptile or amphibian or both. That's just how it is. That's like step one to being a cool girl. You know?
We own frogs.
We do own frogs. I'm amazed I'm not being swarmed with bats right now. I'm just hanging out in the void. It's like, yeah, you're in the void.
Hanging out in the void.
Why aren't you hanging out? Look, I have to contribute something to this relationship. No, 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 no. I want to place a torch. I want to place a torch on a block. I'm going to make a torch block. A block of torches. It's my mod. Frogs are cool and lizards and snakes. Lizard. 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 Lizard.
Lizard.
Lizard.
Lizard.
Lizard.
Lizard.
So
Why
when
did you put my extractor in the house?
I put it by the block chest so I could just immediately test blocks.
Oh.
That's why I was testing the blocks. Sorry. I should have put it back. Because I wanted everyone to hate how much noise it makes and never sleep again, so they'd always sell me shit, and I could stare at them and breathe heavily. That emote what I think it is? That is an emote of someone doing the lizard button thing. What's that from? Like, is it actually from something, or is it just some of the animation everyone likes? Oh. I got this close to hell. This is hell. This big block is hell. I'm out of rope. I have lots of vine rope, but now it won't look like the same rope. TikTok me. Got it. But hey, it's a growing.
To build a platform on some of them?
This is the layer platform here. I don't think there's. I mean, I don't even see the layer where the lava wall shows up, so I don't know. Know what I mean? Hello? Just a buck ton of marble slimes? Okay. That one's stone. That's a conveyor belt. Alright. Okay. Alright. Okay. Do I need to make a fucking lizard emote? Is that what I'm getting? Everyone's got a lizard emote but me? What, baby? Yeah, it should be Cassie Cat doing the lizard button.
Yes.
Or should it be Hazel? One of yours. It has to be. You're the lizard person. You're the lizard person. I mean, Liz is the literal lizard person, but you know what I mean. Because it's being lizard the opossum wizard, but yeah. Oh, you made the jungle at home. Yep. The Cassie button just sounds like we need to make a button that summons Cassie. Well, what can I say? I really like causing conspiracy theorists to lose their mind. Oh, excuse me.
Look, it's Gig and Sprocket and Gizmo.
Nice. It'd be really sad when exactly one of them dies to the eye.
Well, you didn't see Gizmo's dead body.
Oh. I'm sorry. Am I going to cry now?
What?
I cry now? What? Should I cry now? Froggle Bun Witch.
Do not.
I'm gonna make throw up in my mouth. Greetings, Sky Otter. No, you just okay. Of course, she's a furry. She needs the fur to keep warm. Yes. I don't know. I don't remember anymore. I was busy trying to figure out if there's such thing as a cursed wall for granite and marble, because so far, I haven't gotten any luck with that. Trying to get these biomes to spread, baby girl. I just, I don't know, I thought it'd be nice. I have lots of vine rope, but we need rope for the hell rope.
I have 1,800 rope.
Well, then use that and you can go to hell. Congratulations on going to hell. I think mushroom grass just grows really slowly. It is spreading, it's just really slow. And it did update enough to have a little something come out of it that wasn't there before, but it is mostly what it is. Slime combat.
The same rope all the way down?
Yes. I'm sorry, did I just jump off that dude's head? Really? The slime mount can bounce off of enemies.
Yeah, it does damage.
I didn't know that. Has that always been the case?
Yes.
Well, I learned something fun today. Dude, that does a good amount of damage. Dude, why did I take 127? Why the fuck did I take 127 damage? Alright. Was it falling? Didn't be. Mamma mia. Ah, fuck. Healing. Sorry, I was having some sort of Jimmy Neutron brain blast over what was going on with the statement from Liz. I don't know. I thought I got it for a second, and then I went, oh, and turned stupid again. It happens to the best of me. Hey, just wait a minute. I hit. That's just a big wad of money. Baby girl's hunting. Got it.
I could use the help.
Oh, okay.
Trying to place rope down.
There was a worm that spawned from nowhere. You know you can go down the rope and place rope while you're on the rope, right?
Skeleton brain.
Skeleton rain! That's right, we're singing this song again. Skeleton rain! Driving everyone insane again. Skeleton rain! I just found the brink of Hades. Yeah, skeleton rain! Now I'm gonna become your dad. Skeleton rain! Why does the lava not emit light? Skeleton rain! Solar's singing the instrumentals. Oh, we know where we lie on the spousal relations here. Well, you and Bird are type 1, and me and Solar are type 2. It means that we're the annoying ones. Honk! Skeleton rain! Time to make the platform straight to hell. Skeleton rain! We're on layer 3, it's not that well. What can even spawn down here? That one, I can't tell you. That one was also sexual. This would have been a good time to bring roller skates. Didn't think, hey, I'd see another thing like, oh god! Oh god! Oh, these enemies look a lot like the same enemies that we just fought. Hey, that rope's getting longer. Look at it go. Hello. Welcome to the lava part. It's a lot.
Wait.
What?
There's shimmer.
What?
There's shimmer down in the corner. There's like sparklies.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Don't you usually see like a background shift before that?
Yeah, there's a background shift.
Below us? On the left?
Below us on the left.
Alright. 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 You have any dirt or stone on you I can blow on this? Or should I just make our granite down here? I'll get to work on granite then, because I have a lot of granite on me.
You don't see it?
No, I'm not getting anything. Oh, there's a granite guy, so it's nice to know that's easy to spawn, even if the marble's not. Just making a quick geode, sorry.
Maybe it's just that's how the background is now. When it's so dark, you just see stars.
I didn't see stars. You might have seen money falling?
No, like it's.
You keep seeing it?
Yeah.
Alright. Well, if you see it, I believe you see it. It's just a matter of figuring out why you're seeing.
Yeah, I put on the night vision helmet this dude just dropped in it. It's not this one.
Huh. Oh. Well, now we have a granite spot. I saw it spawn granite guys, so it must be working. It's weird because again the marble's not doing shit. These stats one more biome, so my title's not a liar. And at some point we gotta make literal actual hell, but hey. Thank you. Literal, actual hell. Something, something, something. You're in hell. Literal, actual hell. Oh no, it is actually straight up hell. Literal fucking hell. Whoopsie doopsie, here comes all the hell. That's a lot of bats. I saw that. I see what you're talking about.
Right?
I think that might be the edge of hell.
Okay, this is my new thing.
What?
Got a vampire pendant, and this is, yes, you do say blah, blah, blah.
Careful about going in the sun.
No, it's the sound thing.
Oh. Alright, let me hear it.
I don't know, I'm not my enemy. Come here.
Well, no, you can literally just, you can hold it and click it. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Excuse me. My... She's one of yours! Because you're a vampire. The bats are attacking you. Like, she's one of yours. Leave her alone. Dicks. Yeah, I think that's hell, baby. Which is a lot like the Shimmer in a way.
But it's stars.
I don't see stars. I just see a gradient fading in and out. I see no stars. I don't know what you're talking about with those.
Go up to house.
Okay.
And then come look behind my shoulder.
Okay.
Got a mirror?
No. I have 8 recall potions. Put the Totino's in anyway. Want to split one or should I be making 2? Okay.
You watch.
You don't have the lava background.
Look. I told you.
Your whole background situation's different. That's weird. What's your loadout? What do you have on? What happens if you take the magic lantern? You know, like every time you have they're helping, but they're there. Don't they drop geodes sometimes? That'll get us gems. Just temporarily. Go back over there, see if they can. Your background should have the lava.
Still doing it.
Alright, interesting. I'm gonna hit the bathroom real quick, and that's our lead on whatever that is. Everything is rendering different. Put it away. That's why I was like, I don't remember eating all of them. They're gone. They are.
Now I'm having weird, like, shit happen.
What do you mean?
I'm looking where my shoulder now.
What happens if you go down there? Okay. See, that's the background I had up there. That's where hell should be. You might have like you might need to restart. Might be having some sort of memory corruption thing or something going on. That's weird. You got some weird shit happening, honey. Let me know when you're ready. I'll invite you back in. That's maybe there's some bugs still they didn't catch. That's strange. Around the time the background tiles stop rendering. What? They aren't supposed to, I thought. Might be like okay. Let me check something. I have tried to avoid the wiki since the update, but clearly some shit beat up. Terraria animals. I want another soapy. Gotta get this. I got chicken stuck in my throat. Just gonna dilute it. Alright, what do we got? Critters! Yep! Harmless entities don't interact with the player in any way except that they can be killed by both players. Enemies have 5 health and serve as ambient entities. Can be summoned by means of statue, will otherwise spawn randomly. All caught with a bug net except dolphins and turtles! Can be released by being used by any other item. Critters spawned from statues cannot be caught. Most caught critters can be used as fishing bait, crafted into food. They're not saying anything about being able to place them. I don't... They have a new placement indicator, but it just sets them loose. Water candles cause critter spawn rates to go up as well as enemies. If you use water candles in town, you'll get more animals. Never thought about that. No. Okay. That guy's talking about placeable critters, and that's... Place the bunny in the house. We'll see what happens.
Not the gold one.
No, it's just a bunny. I like my money too much. I haven't gotten to work with goldfish yet. I haven't got your frogs despawned, but you heard all those. What was that noise? I should probably pay attention to my did I just there it is. Pay attention to my Twitch. Oh, I got raided. Oh, hello. Moth raid. Yo, moths? Cloud? The bunny has caused things to happen. Thank you. I was trying to figure out this this placeable critter situation. That bunny's already gone. Further research will be needed on the whole idea of placeable critters, because everything said you could place critters, and I've seen whole videos talking about you can place critters. Don't look outside. Is the Mothman out there? Because Liz is at work, and that's her thing. And she's going to be really mad if she can't meet Mothman. I'm just saying. If I have to tie you up so she can meet you, I'll do it. She loves Mothman. Do look outside. Well, time to capture Mothman for the bit. Okay. Is your background fixed since you got back on, baby?
I haven't got back.
Oh, do you need me to invite you? I thought I saw you running around. That's weird. All right. We're all going crazy. She had some sort of like memory leak thing going on. Or something. Like she was getting a shimmer background in a spot I wasn't. She was getting a different wall. Like I was at the lava layer and she was just getting normal cavern like this. Very strange. And then her background tiles started to just draw blank blue. And I went, ooh. Maybe there's some stuff to iron out still. The VRAM use or something. I don't know.
It says that you can place critters as persistent background objects.
Yeah. I am having a wonderful stream. Give me a moment. I'm going to try a thing I've never done before. Never done it. I've never done it. Is it S-O near the moth? Did I do it right? No! Is it this one? I'm bad at Twitch. Okay. I'm being attacked. I'm being attacked. I'm being attacked. I'm clicking on the wrong window. I'm learning. Okay. I'll figure it out eventually. It's fine. Maybe Bunny knows. Bunny's smart. I'm being cornered. I'm being cornered by rockmen. And not the cool ones that make Solar excited. Oh! Yeah, I don't have a chat bot. I've yet to figure out if it's justified for me to bother with a chat. Oh my god. Okay, give me a minute to not be in this situation. Oh my gosh. This is a lot of, excuse me. This is a lot of golems. I like my thing. Don't make me use a real weapon. Half the fun is that I'm the flail idiot. Oh, bats. Oh, he's still here. Yes, yes, I'm in a situation. I've made poor choices. I'm surrounded by the situation. Now I'm over here. Oh, someone figured it out for me. Either Liz or Kate. One of you. Thank you. Must have been Lizzie then. Figured out did the shout out for me. This is why it's good to have a mod or two. Okay. Oh my gosh. We should make a Terraria bingo. I haven't done that yet. Shoot. What would we even do for that? We have to think about that. I am open to input on Terraria bingo ideas. What we'd use. I have not come up with one yet. Every time Kazi gasps, frog uttered. I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. I need to... Hey, the granite frickin' works. Yikes. Okay. Well, there's a biome. We got a biome. We're doing it. We're doing it good. No! 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 What? Sorry, I was trying to fix one screen and I fell to my death. What's that, baby? They're putting chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs despawn?
What's your health at?
Presently or maximum?
Present.
I believe it's still 200. Cool. I guess I should come home and get those instead of just walking the hell away. Boy. Oven's ready. Hi. Use both? I caught some butterflies and I got spaghetti. Baby. I make you spaghetti. I also got a geode. Do you want to open it? Or do I just throw it at the ground? Here. Look, we got jewels.
Yeah, look in the ore spot.
Oh, you were fighting a bunch of those, weren't you? Oh yeah, I haven't run any ads, so you're gonna get pre-rolls. Sorry. That's the downside. On this situation with Terraria, I probably could just set up like auto ad bot. It's just Star Ocean. The auto ads literally interrupt the ding dang the story scenes so much because they will just talk for half an hour. So I had to turn it off. Something like this would probably be fine if I just turned it back on, and then we wouldn't have pre-roll, but you would have interruptions. But I would get paid. I have 10 viewers right now.
Hello, chat. This is the Kazzy wife.
And that's the Cassie wife. Hopefully everyone can hear her all right. I was looking into reactive, excuse me, Easter Slime, reactive like Discord stuff. That seemed kind of interesting. But that is still hard when we're both in the same room, so. Got a night vision helmet, but you already have one, right? That's 4 defense. That's a material. How's that been a material for? Hello. Ultra bright helmet. Oh, really? Okay. Baby. Do you have a mining helmet? I think I do. No, I have a mining shirt. That's a material too. Kate. I think I found the advanced mining set. And we can do it. No, we cannot.
Don't have the goblin thing.
No, we can't do that. No. Night vision helmet. Hairs. Oh, it does need the goblin thing. You're right. Shoot, then show the workshop. It said it as words. It put it as words. I was all excited. I thought I was helping. Okay, I'm gonna put pizza in the oven. Everyone, look at my gorgeous wife flying around. I mean, I could run a 1-minute ad while I put pizza in the oven. And that would buy us potentially 20 minutes of no pre-roll? Or maybe I have to do it 3 times. A little late now, everyone showed up. Whatever. I'm going to go get the pizza in the oven. You know what? Look at her. Oh, yeah, because you're looking at my wife. You know what? Yeah, I don't want to interrupt people looking at my wife. Everyone look at my wife. She's awesome. Okay. Let me get my pizza in the oven. I can get my wife to say, loves the pizza, so don't you give her crap. Oh, sir. Wrong. Boil down, we'll spray down. Baby.
Star Night.
What?
It's a Star Night. Yeah, they're dropping stars, a bunch of stars, and and night crawlers.
We're getting your ammo, right?
Yeah.
You need me.
I think it's a Star Night. I mean.
You need to see the back. 12 minutes, then we'll have a pizza to share. A Will Tortino's tweet. Away. Okay. All right. Woohoo! Where were we? I don't know. Should I go check on my mushrooms, you think? See if they're growing? Have you been back down there yet to see if it's working better, baby? Ooh. Have to, excuse me, have to expand that cloud out a bit. It's kind of like, Star Bowl! It's kind of like what my mother says, but she's always like, I don't know, I only work here. I just work here. Smack, smack. No, I mean smack back. Yeah, I think it might be a star night on account of all the stars on the dirt road over here. Alright. Just a fish. Oh, it's spreading! It is spreading. It is slow as dick, but it's spreading. We are gradually getting a mushroom. I just killed that poor fish. Getting a mushroom biome. They have mushroom to grow. You are correct. Oh, you are sporect. Oh. Just a little too slow to keep up with my own desire to shitpost. It's fine. It's the lack of delicious At least our graveyard growth rate has distinctly gone down lately, so that's good, right? Just let that worm its own devices. Enjoy hell. What we got on me? One rope! One rope! It looks like she finished and reached the end of the world, so... My worm. I am descending. You are fucking my daughter. Sorry. It's in my head now. I don't think I've ever heard that voiced. I just know the meme, and that's the voice I read it in. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about, but whatever. Dracula. Okay, we're good. Down, 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 down. And this is hell. Ooh, okay, no, we don't quite have a good hell platform. We are in hell. We are just on the cusp of the entrance of hell. Which sounds like a description of the political climate. Anyway. Oh, hello. You see, if you touch it, it gets longer. Down, 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 down. You're almost there. Down. Oh, you are there.
Can't place anymore.
Ooh, yeah, I can just fall off and die there. I'm not going to do that. Okay. We are going to place some good old-fashioned dirt. Just some dirt. Alright, we're in hell. We did it. We did it, every pony. We reached the bowels of heck. Gorsh. Oh my god, I can't do anything without these dudes showing up to ruin my night. What is my best murderer tool? That's really subjective right now. Well, nice knowing you. Nice knowing you. Oh no. I would like to expand this section, but I don't think it's worth my effort to do so. Have a nice day. Oh shit. There we go. I wish he was that transparent, honestly, Spritz.
What you did if your dad told you?
What? Oh. Boo. I don't know if anyone can even hear that joke. Night, Solar. What'd you get if your dad told you he was a woman? Transparent. You are funny. It just physically hurt. It is. I'm so weak that your humor did in fact hurt me. Sticks and stones can break my bones. Words will always hurt. I am a weak little baboo. There's a pinky? I didn't even see the pinky. There are so many pinkies here. They're good money. Yeah, there it is. Only I could not die while going for it. You know, I do have a backup plan. It's just really stupid and cheap. Bird and Solar going to sleep together. Because they're married and they should. You can do what you want, can't you? You don't have to do anything. The norms of society are just suggestion. We are all able to do whatever we want forever as long as we're not hurting anybody, so... Yeah. Oh my gosh. How about all of you just enjoy my silly flail? Is this fun? Are you enjoying this? I'm holding the button. I was gonna say, do I do the yo-yo damage limit, or am I just my mouse a little weak? Get the bat! Bat! Get the bat! Yes, touch my big flaming ball. Dead bat. Undead bat. Hello, welcome to the nightmare. Enjoy instantly killing them with your really good sword. You can visit hell if you want, but I don't have anything to build it with yet, so... Gotta go get material to use for that. But oh, once I get that material, things can get even less fun. For me. Hello? Cobwebs down here. Are you getting the right background now? Okay. Yes, dear. We should wrap up, you think? Up to you. Are you just getting worn out? Well, I can focus on building or whatever or something. I can do other
I'm still getting those...
You're still getting the sparkles?
No, the memory leak thing.
That's concerning. That's very concerning.
Especially when I'm big.
Huh. I mean, it could also just be some sort of parsing error with your video or something. I don't know. Could be a lot of shit. Could be a hardware thing. Could be a software thing. Most likely some sort of interaction betwixt the two. But it is concerning that it's happening. Hello, Mr. Skellington. You sure are in an interesting spot. Green roller skate. So roller skates come in different colors, but they aren't materials. It's just whatever you want to wear. Red counterweight. I don't think there's a reason to need more than one, is there? I don't really use my yo-yo much. Maybe I should. 14? I mean, that's a consistent 14, but... Let's see. Umbrella. Bone torch. Huh. May as well just do that just to say I did, so I can do this. That sounds fun. Don't worry about it. On my feet. Oh, I have team color dye on my paint. Hello. You know what? This is a good spot. Here, baby, I give you higher HP regen. Now your HP will regen even faster. Okay. Let's see. I got 2 glowing mushrooms. It's not grass, but I got mushrooms. Okay. Put these in here. It's just kind of a fun thing. We have a little bit of cloud block. That could work. I just use dirt. We got lots of dirt. Okay. Okay. I think I'm going to put the granite away for now because I can't really take care of myself down there, it seems.
Got a magic mirror for it.
Nice. Thank you. And in terms of crafting, since these stack, I'll do that for now. No. Where's... Oh my gosh. Where's the button? There. There's the button. I am dumb. Alright, we got smooth marble. We got marble. We got granite. Smooth granite. Lots of Easter. Oh, have you seen the Easter table? I like the Easter door. And the pizza's ready. Okay, go get the pizza. Then figure out if I can upgrade it. Oh. Pizza time. Somewhere in this world is a pizza cutter. Can I find that pizza cutter? Who's that pizza cutter? No. I want a pizza cutter. My name is Pizza Cutter. Pizza. Never when you're done eating, say, rat again. So when you're done eating, say, rat again. Was it you? Please give me both. Rat again, that filthy and more. Rat again. How would you do that, Mr. Rat? I thought that we were friends. Not each other. They're gonna pizza. That's so good. Beloved wife. Here's pizza. Or you, pizza mentioned. I would go in general. I'd go in general if I was doing that bingo. Okay, let's see. What can I do? I mean, we can smelt. See what smelt done dealt and all that. We've been very busy. Oh, you're in the box. Okay. Should I make the honey bucket and make a honey pool? Does that do anything for us right now? And I'll wait. Curious. We can't just make a fucking beehive out of 2 honey, that's for sure. Hmm. We pondering, dogs. What do we got? 33? Golden deliciousness? It's quite a bit of gold. And that. Okay. I have the gold, everything but 10. Oh, yeah. Boom. Done. Okay. Done. Boom. Now I have 21 defense. I feel better about that. Scrying orb. We're not going to waste the magic mirror she gave me on a scrying orb. It's cool. It's cool that you can... I actively have it on me. You need to stay out of that box right now. I'm using it. I can make you a platinum crown or helmet. We don't have enough for pants. I have 18 bars on me. Here. There's what we have. 20 platinum bars. No pants just yet. Well, there's silver, gold, tungsten. I can make you platinum anything but pants. Platinum just one better than gold at everything. If you get platinum in your world, it's just the better one. Same with tungsten. That's wild. I didn't realize that. I thought they were equivalent. We're dumping equivalent. 21 damage magic staff, but it's not piercing as far. What am I doing? I'm doing 18 with that, and then I have the bone sword I should use more. That's what I have. Okay. Alright. Let's go check on our mushrooms. See if that's turned into anything remotely yet. The desire to make these nice little biomes. I mean, we have the graveyard, we have the mushroom. That's cutting it close. We should extend the clouds. We've attempted to make marble, and it's just not taking, which is weird because the granite started basically immediately? Like, right away, the granite started. Okay, we're getting some headway. It starts around the bottom more than the top, but it's wrapped around. It's gone through there. Okay. It's going to spread over there really well. I'd like it to spread the other way a little more. In a magical world, that would have given me a single grass seed. Just one. Just one would have been nice, but nope. Nope, not for me. Not today. Alright. That's fine. I'm not doing anything. That's cool. Whatever. Defy me. You monster. Can roam in the dark here. Alright. Alright. So... I'm not getting any of the javelin guys to show, which I thought were fairly common at this point. Is this too high up? Oh, I just heard the music. This is way too high up. Oh, what a pain in the butt. Okay. Well, at least we solved the issue. I gotta tear all this down. Oh, man. Okay. Well, I mean, at least I have these. This'll help. Just tear it all down! Oh, no. That's not ideal. Got too high and heard the music, yeah. If I get any more higher, I'm gonna see color. On the upside, I mean, I got this nice funnel for the slimes to fall in now, I guess. Just the pit to hell. God, this sucks. Okay. We solved it, though. Why are they not spawning? Because the marble is technically not in the underground layer. It's in the underground background. That music be playing. That music means we're too high up. That music means we are still technically surface. So, alright. Maybe if you're coming to me, you better mind that gap. I played with bombs, and I made mistakes. I will fix the mistakes in a moment. So I like the mace, but its overall, like, ability to reach and do things is really limited, and I think that is becoming a primary issue with it. Which is normal. Maces are not great. I just like them because I like spinny ball, me lazy, haha. So, you know. They've also blown up more things than I should. Yep. Okay. At least I know what's wrong. First step was confirming something was wrong at all. And that's where the granite worked. Right? Because granite was like immediately like, hey, this works, so. The fact the marble doesn't. Interesting. Then I noticed the song. I don't know how I didn't notice it, but I think it was raining, and I just went, hey, rain music, yay. Be like brain, rain, brain off. That'll do her. That will do her. Just like me in your mom's house. Unblock defying me, huh? Alright. Well, that's fine. It's one less thing to maintain at this spot. I can make it... I probably don't want to make it on the other side of the granite. That's probably stupid. That would probably just make for way too many problems. I'm barely keeping up with the granite as it is. If I'm not keeping up with the granite, I'm really bad at the granite. 100. And the second layer is pretty easy now. I guess I could just put it there. I don't need too many underground locations, right? Like, I need each layer, at least one, right? For whatever spawns there. And I need the jungle. And I've started setting up. But at the moment, we haven't even fought the eye yet, so. We are making headway. We are finding new things. It's just taking. What's up, baby? What are you doing? Oh, because you want your armor set done. Fair enough. Oh, you could upgrade anything besides wood. You have lots of options. Sorry. I didn't realize that was the state. I was just throwing you like silver or something to start. At least it's not wood. When I get really mad, look at how much stats the wooden pants give you. Nothing. They don't give you a damn thing. I was wearing them too. I just noticed earlier. I'm like, oh, that's dumb. This just in at the start, Terraria wearing pants was a cosmetic choice. Now that's what we call quality of life. Alright. Tearing down my wall. It's so exciting. Tearing down stuff. Yeah, you keep saying that, but you keep not leaving. Got a nice active chat. I'm a little scared to leave. I'm like, I've got people in. I'm a little scared to wrap up. Wait, no. Oh. Oh, oh no. I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to get the rope. Now I'm surrounded by goo. The goopy gangbang. Lucky me. I'm creating fun new obstacles for myself. Alright. Alright. You! Cease with this crap. Be gone. Be gone. Be gone. Be gone. Just a second. Go. X. Hey, look at Pinky. Hello, Pinky. Give me your money. And your pink gel I should probably use for something at this point because we have a craft done. And you can tell when I look away, take a bite of pizza because I immediately get eaten by something. Every time. Just, oh, right, there's guys here. Be gone. Bada. On the flip side, I've made a lovely Rorschach test on my map. Like, tell me what you see. Mystery. Worm. Down. Hi, baby. I see you have a friend. He's making funny faces at me. It says it's wet out there again. So I should be getting rain, but whatever. I should have all my marble, yep, and I just... And ahead a little bit, because in the future this is where Medusas spawn, and if they're eye level, you're going to have a bad time. Right? So, let's go down a little bit. Go down just a hair.
They're spawning.
Awesome. Okay, we got a marble biome.
Ooh, they hurt.
I bet they do. The other guys are pretty painful too, honestly. Those javelins are probably pretty decent for us at this point, so there's that. And truly, I don't know what to do besides making hello, pew pew. Making new biomes. It seems like kind of our entire possibility space right now. It's kind of what I'm doing. I could save some for furniture. I mean, the furniture is nice. Getting dark there, sir. Okay. I think this will do for now. Nothing too elaborately fancy visually, but as a starting point, it definitely works. Like, we're getting the dudes. Oh dear. A naked lady. No, you first. Finally, something the mace is good at. Just, no. Denied. Hey, I can handle these. These guys actually, like, get stun locked pretty easy. That's the secret right there. You stun lock a sucker and you just laugh and laugh. Alright. That's good. That's good. We want that. We want something we can actually fight. Let's use what we got. Let's just use what we got. Create a lovely little environment. Which I mean a big empty plain. Don't touch me. I mean, I've got all these walls, but I don't know what to do with just walls. Start walking and letting it place by the ground like, hey, that's a thing. It kind of creates a semi-organic pattern. Yeah. Not terrible. Man, can you not with the bats? So many bats. Yeah, little pillars. What isn't that? What was sense of something? I don't know. Over here we can shorten it out because it's a bad place with a bad hole, and you don't want to go in the bad hole because you will never come back from the bad place that the hole leads to. There, that's something. I would love a little more reach. 3 blocks is rough, man. I hear metal. So I think hoplites have a chance of dropping some kind of armor, right? Is that good?
Immunity to knockback.
Let's see. Wow, that was fast. Gone. Okay, there's that. Do I have a big pile of dirt? I do have a big pile of dirt. We got a pile of dirt. One down. This is it. This is it. It's all coming together. Oh, no. Mm-mm. With your bat crap. No, thank you. All right. Now comes the worst thing anyone's ever seen. A dirt bridge in hell. But it'll be in hell, and monsters will spawn. We'll get hell monsters. It's a start. And we don't get chests, so I don't know how that's going to work. Unless I mean, we're already getting mimics. I don't think that's normal at this stage. I thought that was usually hard mode where they start popping, but they're just carrying, like, normal stuff?
Carry stuff for gold chests.
Yeah, so... that is kind of how we're getting any of that stuff. See, I kind of wish Hell had caves and stuff to match that background. For all I know, they updated it. It does. I have no idea. But the background is not what Hell looks like. It's just that backing. Like, there's cities and lava and stuff. There's like a whole world back there. Alright, we got a fire bat. We got our first Hell monster. We're going to Bone Sword. Bone Sword is better. Bone Sword is better for protecting me. Better knockback. Makes a huge difference right now. Javelins aren't terrible. Javelins aren't terrible. Don't need a lot. We just need to see them coming. Hopefully, at some point, something will spawn that gives us access to... well, there's a hell critter. That doesn't help me right now. Can't catch it. Hello! That's what we're worried about. Among other things. What I would like to see is something spawning that gives us access to Ash and... I don't even know at this point. Well... got Demon Scythe. Got Celestial 40 magic damage! Hey! Mana priority just went up. It ain't fast, but it is 40. Me speeding by the post office. I think it'd be good down here to just kind of... Maybe the focus on... I've been playing journey mode too much. I'm going to focus on the priority a bit. Oh, they reworked the sprites for the campfire. Never mind, I was in smart cursor. I was in smart cursor like a fool. Well, he just flew into hell. Does he come back? Or is he just gone? Bone Snake's not ready. He's gone. He unexisted. All right. Well, I've got good news, bad news, baby. I'm getting hell spawns. It's the good news, believe it or not. The bad news is I'm not getting shit from them. I mean, I got a nice weapon. Don't get me wrong. I got the celestial thing. I got the scythe right away, but... Oh my gosh. Now, if I was only good at fighting, not me playing Terraria, we'd be golden. I like building. I'm not the greatest at fighting. You're done? Okay. You can watch me for a bit if you want while I wrap up. I don't know what my goal is at this point. I was wanting to make biomes. That was what I stated as the goal for this stream. That's the title of the stream. So we're making biomes. And I have made biomes. We just made progress on various biomes. So it's not like it's falls. I'm just... Hey, there's a lava slime. Let's see what happens. Oh god, yep, he makes lava. Oh dear. Lava slimes function. Lava slimes function. What if I just... No. Okay. Okay, so if we want lava, oh, well, I just took a nice amount of damage. If we want lava, we gotta make spots for it to pool. Fine. Good to know. Good to know. It's good to know. Test that, see what happens. Oh, it killed my, completely annihilated my poor, campfire. Turn around. Thank you. Okay. So, okay. No, this isn't all bad. This is weird, but it's not all bad. That's good to learn. That's very good to learn. Because we need lava at some point. We just straight up do, right? Case in point. Here's the guy. We're gonna get nice and close. Good boy. Nah, get out of the way. I might be about to die, but... Bye. Woo! That's an obelisk. But we have lava. There's our first imp. That imp got resprited. He looks way cooler now. Look at that. His tail wags and stuff. Okay. You want me to take your computer, baby? Okay. Do you have the buckets?
They're in the equipment box.
Which one's that?
I think it's down in...
There's 25. All right, let's get some water. Yoink. Okay. I'm gonna mute for just a second. I'm gonna be in and out for a little bit, just for a minute. needed on other things, but only for like sporadic instances. So I'll be moving around, but quiet. Feel free to text chat or set horrible rules for me or something. I don't know. I'm here. Grub soup. That's a new one, right? Oh, really?
Oh.
Ascending? Okay. 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 Well, good thing I'm doing a lot of crafting. I can't go up. Only down. Alright. Well, it's only for like 5 minutes. It's fine. We'll figure it out. You're cruel to me. But it is interesting, I guess. I can't jump. What if a monster bumps me? Ooh. That was an achievement. Sunglasses were an achievement. Okay. Sure. does teleportation count as rising? That's the question of the moment. I don't actually know. Shoot that? Got away. Okay. Let's see. There's not much I can actually do right now. It's kind of rough. I can make food. Buffing myself might be the way to go. I can start updating this building to not be made of slime. Unless do you like the slime look, baby? I do like this door. Make these doors. I can't get my buckets unless the loophole counts. Oh! There was a crate floating in there and I couldn't get out of it. Rude. I am free of your purgatory, woman. Woman, man, lady, thing, guy. I'm so good at non-binary, guys. I'm so good at it. Can you tell I'm so good at it? I never get it wrong, and I never mix it up, and I never just pivot with just like, you're everything. You're nothing, and you're everything. I'm the best. I'm so good. Okay. I'm going to get my buckets now and get more water and therapy. Might need some therapy. Anyway, bucket. Watch it stop raining immediately. Buckets. Okay. Okay. Oh, yes. Give me... Oh, yes, please. We are 8,000 worms. What was I... right. I was going to extract and eat the tin can and the shoe and see what happens. Tin can gives me... snail. Shoe gives me... apprentice bait. Oh, the tree's gotten hit by lightning. Bang! Mostly that can hurt enemies. It's a new thing. Oh, it's like a proper storm now. Alright. Flashing lights warning. Again, oh, geez. Got seaweed, guys. I'm excited about my seaweed. More apprentice bait. Okay. Well, it gives you something now. Not exactly making our life easier, but it's fine. I am being informed that I should definitely wrap up. It is after 11, I guess. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. I'm gonna take a second here real quick and get everything situated. Got some heart reach and mana potions from the thingy. I now have Now have this. Lovely, lovely, lovely. I guess I don't necessarily need vine rope on me at all times. I can put that in here with the other rope, and it's probably a-okay. These are technically blocks. The limited is comfy. I'm glad you are comfy. I approve of comfy in this environment. Do we want furniture in a particular place, love? Just gonna put it with blocks for now. Yeah, it seems where it's going. Okay, and I'll do that. Okay, that'll work. Here's a different kind of wood. I'll put it right here with the other wood. Cool. I'm going to put the dirt away for. So, sake of argument, we're going to do a final lap and just show off what we've been doing. Then I'm probably going to call it for tonight. Wasn't exactly the plan. We were going to work on Lonely, but she likes the Skyblock, and I work on Lonely for her. So I'm like, well, which would you prefer? I'm going to do this. So maybe I'll work on Lonely later. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to get done yet. We're solving that actively. Whoa! Oh, it's just lightning again. Can I hit you? Like, if I stand here, what happens? Oh! Ow! Alright. Sick. Why not? Gotcha. I'll save you, bird. Come here. Boy, okay. Thought were a biome we'd be going. I mean, I guess we could go up and make one. Alright, so here's our jungle so far. It's coming along. Oh, the fire can cause issues too. That's cool. We've got, yeah, I mean, it's a start. It's a start of a jungle. The goal here eventually is going to be get underground, make an underground jungle situation, because that has to be specific kind of setup, right? Really count. So we're going to have to spread this down a fair amount, which is why I made this little alcove. It's going to be like a terraced sort of step down sort of thing, like a proper going into the jungle until it counts as underground jungle. Hopefully, eventually. That is my goal. There are several aspects of this. I don't know how we're meant to progress on it, or if we just have to act with the restriction that they are not actually there. Right? Like, as far as I know, there's nothing in this world besides apparently a Shimmer Island somewhere. And everything else is we just get to solve it. I'm going to switch these around a bit. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I'm keeping the compass on me. The compass is not stacked like everything else does? Apparently, oh, they must have different adjectives or something. Okay. The other one I really worked on, I mean, we saw the hill, we saw the other thing, right? This will keep my worms up. Lord knows I'm the one that's going to use the fishing. We got marble and granite. Cool. We have 3 different layers of underground and hell started. Even with a little bit of lava. We got lava now. And we technically have honey, though not very much of it. Trying to leave that alone because I think that can grow in the blink root. I think that's baby blink root. Don't quote me on that. And our mushroom is... once again, kind of stagnating, but not too bad. I think I might try to make this spot... Oh, we're getting the music, though. At least till I cut the grass. So we're right on the cusp with this counting as a mushroom biome. Consistently. So we are getting somewhere. Awesome. Okay. So that's several sub-biomes. We're getting something. We're getting something. It's taking a bit. I should have planted this well, I should just drop the water. Ugh, whatever, I'll do it next time. That's fine. Eventually, we're going to want to make new housing or upgrade the housing we have or something. This is we worked with what we had, but we're starting to get some options. Cool. Nothing against the slime blocks, just kind of like, this is a house made of goo. Yeah. I think that about sums up where we're at for now. And we've killed one boss? So, okay. One last fishing for good luck. Everyone cross your fingers for good luck with fishing. Here we go. What do we got? What do we got? Bass. What is this? That looks like a dynamite fish almost. That's bomb fish. Oh, hey, a wooden crate. Oh, hey, another extractinator. Well. Alright. We'll have one for the next outpost, I guess. Airship makes sense in this build thing. Oh, wait. If I take the sunglasses off, does the sunglasses go away on the sun? That's awesome. That is so cool. I didn't know it actually changed the sun sprite. Did you notice that? Okay. Alright. I am needed elsewhere. I need to go provide emotional support to my poor wifey. And probably try to get some kind of work on something done tonight. We'll see. But for now, all I can say is I will try to stay off Megabonk for at least an hour or two. We'll see. And I'm going to go for a swim. That was sexy otter. Alright. Is there anyone we need to raid? Is there a raidable person? Let me check my thing. Let's be a good tuber. Let's be a good tuber, shall we? I got raided. I should pay it forward. I should pay it forward. This is a Bob Ross channel. Perfect. No. Wow. There's not a lot going on today. Alright. Well, what if I did this button? What kind of suggestions give me? Zenith Seed, Hardcore Legendary. Hey, you want to see something be way better than me? I guess we could send you to that one. There's a Lucario for all you furries. This one has a cat icon, but they're Russian. Aww. Okay. They won't know what anyone's saying. How about the Zenith Seed? That sounds interesting. That sounds like that'll make people be like, huh. Permadeath. Wow. Yep, have fun. We're gonna raid this guy. Alright? We're gonna raid this guy. I am going to call the stream. Thank you all for joining me on this lovely night. And I follow if you haven't, and we want to see more later. We'll do more of it. I also do JRPGs on Wednesday. And some other stuff. We do Mega Bonk lately and all kinds of shit. Oh, no, I canceled the raid. I hit the wrong button. I hit the wrong button. There, I hit the right button. Okay, maybe I used unraid? No, I didn't. I don't know what happened. I hope it worked right. It said it worked right on mine. Goodbye, everybody. I'm learning Twitch. I'm dumb. Good night.